This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Valeria Teles interviews Nita Patel, the author of Boss Vibes, Self-Esteem, Success, and the Art of Etiquette. Nita Patel is a speaker, author, and artist who believes in modern etiquette as a path to becoming our best selves. Born in Croydon, UK, as a child, Nita would travel frequently between London and Dallas, attending primary school in both places. She was influenced by American and English culture and her parents' deep Indian origin. In her formative years, being an amalgam of values and morals, Nita would attempt to mold her persona to fit her circumstance, such as disguising her English accent as a teenager in America to avoid the inevitability of teenage harassment. These types of experiences and coping strategies helped to formulate her strong and resilient character. Through her professional years and prior to her immersion in creative arts, Ms. Patel has over 2 decades of demonstrated technology leadership experience in various industries, specifically with a concentrated focus in healthcare for 14 of those 20-plus years. Her investment in psychology theory and practice is what led her to a deep interest in helping others. As a catalyst, finding additional ways to express her creativity led her to pursue her calling professionally as an artist for the past 8 years. She has become deeply and passionately devoted to nurturing others and in building their confidence and brand through speaking and consultative practices. Meet Nita on nita-patel.com. Here is the interview with Nita Patel.
In your own words, who is Nita Patel?
So I would say my purpose is to help people elevate their personal and professional brands. And that's what I do through an array of means. I do it through art, I do it through speaking, and I do it through coaching services.
You speak of a personal brand. I never heard about that. Maybe I did in the past, but I don't remember exactly with these words together. So what would that be, a personal brand?
I think it's really about who you are as a person. These days, whether you're a corporate professional, whether you're a business person, an entrepreneur, our face represents our brand, our company, whatever it is that we do. And so when I say personal, professional brand, I think that is almost synonymous. Who you are and how you conduct yourself is how people see you. And I think it's important that, based on what your goals are, that you are able to act and conduct yourself in a way where you're respected so that you can be seen in an elevated light, whether it's your, again, going back to personal, whether it's your family, whether it's new relationships that you're building, or on a professional side, whether it's your boss or your clients. So it's kind of one and the same. You don't want to act like a different person based on whether you're in a business environment or you're in front of friends and family. You want to act as one person, but how do you create an elevated image about yourself? And so that's what I help people with.
What is your definition of power and also success?
My definition of success and power is freedom.
Mm.
I think it's a combination of financial freedom, it's emotional freedom. I think that's the biggest one. A lot of people have financial freedom, but they don't have emotional freedom. And so they have a certain degree of success, but they are still, held down by their, let's say, limiting beliefs. And so for me, success and power is all about having that level of freedom.
What would that look like? Can we reach that state of balance when it comes to emotions?
I think so. It certainly takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of awareness,
Yeah.
but I think it's possible. I think the biggest thing is you have to be willing to let go of your past, which
Mm,
is
right.
very, very
True.
difficult for anyone that's tried it.
Yeah.
But I would say that is, a key in finding that freedom and in finding that
Mm,
balance. We may not ever be 100% emotionally free
right.
because life is always happening to us.
Right.
But if we can learn to let go of our past and, practice forgiveness for
Mm,
ourselves and for others in our lives and in our past, I think that that's a level of freedom that you can achieve so that you can enjoy the present moment. I think
mm,
and this is for men and women both, when we hold on to our past, we're not able to enjoy the present moment that we're in. And then, we self sabotage because of our experiences in the past. And so, having that awareness and being open to letting go is a really big part of that.
how do we learn to do that? Do things and be in the moment without expecting anything in return?
I will say it's a tough one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And practice makes perfect, right? Um, the more that you practice for today, one of the things that I talk about in my book is when I refer to manners and etiquette, is I say it's not a jacket that you put on when you walk out of the door. You still have to practice it in the home in order to know how to have that awareness and act when you leave your home.
Mm,
And so I think this is the
yeah.
same thing is, this is not a jacket that you put on and take off. I think you have to practice it every day and set intentions and make a conscious decision that you want to be present. And then I think tools are important because this is such a tough um, a tough mindset to get yourself into practicing,
Yeah.
that you need tools to support you. And one of the things that I've learned is anytime you have a self-sabotaging thought or
Mm.
something that takes you back into your past, I will stop and I will do 5 jumping jacks or
Wow.
do something physical
Yeah.
to break that mental
Mm,
thought
yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And it really helps in staying focused and staying positive, but it also keeps you present in the moment as well. So I think learning what the tools work for you,
Yeah.
because different things work for different people, and so experimenting and learning what works best for you. But I think it is possible to get there.
What do you think is the purpose of the human experience as a whole?
um, I'm glad you're asking me this question because I was going to make a comment that may answer this. Um, I think that it is, I believe that we are spiritual beings.
Yeah.
And so being in a human experience, I think it's really to experience emotions, experience, our sensory, all of that, but in a way, again, while staying present, while being positive. And one of the things that I think our society has kind of fallen on is, to your point, inner joy and peace. I think that's very much a part of a human experience. And we tend to think that there's a big milestone, when we make X amount of money or when we, finish, let's say, school, or you find a significant other, or your kids have a milestone. For us, we make these big milestones as our moments of happiness. And I think what we forget is we can be happy being in the present moment every single day. And it's all about how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself. And I talk a lot about this in my book as well, is, from the way you dress to the way you have a meal, all of those things through your everyday can allow you to feel joy. And that's inner joy, because you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it to show the world, um, what you're experiencing in life. It's for you. When you sit down and have a meal, for example, and you light a candle and you play some music, even if it's just you having dinner by yourself, I think that those are type of situations where you can create some joy for yourself, and that's meaningful. And so there are simple things that you can do every day to create that joy. But yeah, I absolutely believe that that is a key component in being a happy human and having a happy human experience.
It's great that you have these tools that can help us to get there. Like, I actually usually don't think about clothing and dressing a certain way. I like anything that's comfortable. So I think you mentioned in your book about women or anyone, 40s and the 50s, a specific age. Kind of didn't resonate with me because I really love the idea of being free and just in that sense and just wearing whatever it's comfortable. I mean, not that I wear anything that's too short. I'm 43, so I never did anyway, my whole life. But you mentioned about the yoga pants, and I do use that. I used to be a personal trainer. So I'm wondering if I change the way I dress, I'll feel more joy.
And not to say that, if you're running errands or if you're doing kind of the day-to-day things, I think this is about when you're, and I think maybe even a simpler example is your hair, right? The day that you wash and blow dry your hair, whether it's every 2 days or every 3 days or whatever it might be, but when you take the time to blow dry your hair, you fix it, you have and you look at yourself in the mirror, you feel a little bit different, right?
Yeah,
Than
yeah,
on a day that you don't wash your hair and you just
true.
tie it up or you wear a hat or something like
So
that.
true.
And so
Yeah.
I think those, right. It speaks to the same concept, is when you wear your favorite little black dress, for example, you just feel so much more confident. You put your favorite pair of heels on. And again, if you're running errands, that's not something that you're going to be wearing. But based on what you're doing, in your day, it's about the feelings that translate and how it makes you feel more confident, how it makes you feel like you can, conquer the world. Oh yes, let's take care of this today. And so those are the type of feelings that translate into, from how you wear to how you feel. And so that's really my point in conveying. If you're always casual, you're always your decision making is going to be a little bit different when you're, constantly feeling casual. An example that I love to give is, when you're in your loungewear and you're having dinner on the couch while you're, slouched over and you have the TV on or something like that, you're not going to make the best decisions, right? You're not going to make the most confident decisions because you're in a relaxed mood. Um, but when you're out, at a fine dining experience, you're going to make different decisions. Your mind is going to be thinking a little bit differently, and so it's really about having the awareness of where you're at and how to put your best foot forward in that particular situation.
And that's interesting. You're connecting the way we behave, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we dress, the way we eat, and everything else to the way we think. It changes the way the thought patterns, and it does. It affects thoughts. And I'm wondering if that affects beliefs too, because beliefs, like limiting beliefs, the belief system is so much more powerful. So I'm wondering if that helps us to change our belief system.
Yeah, I mean, confidence poses is something that I love sharing with people. And when you stand in a certain position, when you sit in a certain position, there's a very cliche pose, from from the 60s with a man, sitting at his desk and his legs are crossed on the desk and he's leaned back with his hands crossed behind his head. It's a very, very cliche position, but when you sit in that pose for 2 minutes, it actually changes your body chemistry to where it reduces the cortisol level and it increases testosterone, and that's where you feel more confident. And so it really does change your chemistry based on how you sit and stand. When you have your arms crossed and your shoulders are kind of scrunched in, you're not in a you're not in a receiving position. You don't look approachable, right? If you're in person somewhere. But even if you're by yourself, that's not a receiving position. And so if you're in a creative mode, let's say, and you're wanting to write or you're looking for ideas, if your body language is positioned in a certain way, then you're not going to be open to receiving those ideas. So yeah, it really does matter no matter where you are.
I'll ask you this question before we talk about some of the topics in your book: boss vibes, self-esteem, success, and the art of etiquette. So I'll ask you this one. This year, 2020, we have had, and we still have, we are going through changes and challenges. So I'm wondering, what lessons have you learned, and what lessons do you believe we will learn when this is over, if it is over one day? Do you have a vision for a new reality, a better world?
I would say we're definitely more virtual, and finding our comfort zone in where that is to be experienced. It's definitely a higher performance. I know a lot of companies have done analysis on their employees working from home, and they have realized that employees are more productive when they're working remotely. And so I think it is going to take some time to understand what our new reality is going to look like. But specific to things that I discuss in my book, I think that, things that mannerisms that we've forgotten, even about personal hygiene, I think those are coming back to the forefront. And I tell people that even before masks were mandatory, 2 years ago when I was traveling, especially in the winter months, I would wear a mask when I got on the plane. And, it was because I didn't want to get sick. Um, but I would also put, a drop of lavender or peppermint or something like that. And it would just relax me. And it would be, a pleasant flight, just because I had that. And so I was protecting myself. I didn't want to get the flu during flu seasons. And so there are things that, we probably did more leisurely, that we now have to do mandatory. And I wrote about a lot of this before I knew that, what 2020 was going to be like. And that's one thing that people are always fascinated about, that they ask me. They say, when did you write this book? Because you talk a lot about how to behave on video conferences and, and how to travel with ease and all of this. And I said, no, I promise. I wrote this before I knew anything about it. But I think, that it's coming back to the forefront of being very aware and conscious of how we conduct ourselves in public.
How did you become a writer, Nita?
Um, I'm not sure that I would call myself a writer, but I'm definitely a creative. And when I was younger, I enjoyed writing poetry, and I would journal a lot. And I think that at some point I decided I wanted to write a book, just because I was passionate about sharing my message with people. And And so, I would just write down incidents that occurred in my mind that were outrageous. And at some point, I decided, I'm going to put all of this together and write a book about it. Um, and so that's kind of how I wrote my book. But, I think when, and you know this yourself, but as a creative person, you always are trying different things in the creative space. And so, whether it was painting or writing, or performing in different aspects, I think that that's just something that is a part of being my creative self.
What about art? How did you become an artist?
um, I used art as a creative outlet. I was never the person who talked about my feelings and shared how I felt with anyone. And so for me, I would always paint and use that as as my form of expression. And at some point, I think I had collected enough work to where people would ask me, my friends who would come over would ask me, "What are you doing with all of this?" And, I would say, no, 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 it's just something I do. I'll throw it away at some point. And they would be like, "Are you crazy? You can't throw this away. You have to show this to people." And so I did my first art show locally in Dallas. And I think that was it. That did it for me. I love the experience of seeing people look at my art and finding different meaning and seeing their own inspiration in my work. And so I think that was very fulfilling for me. And so ever since then, I've been showing around the world, mostly in Europe, UK, and the States. But yeah, I think it just became a part of me after that.
So, talk to me for a moment about the dual arts of conversation, talking, listening, and body language.
Yeah, so, I think that most people listen just long enough to formulate their response. And so it's very one-sided, because they're just thinking about what they're going to say next. And I think that you miss an opportunity when you don't listen and you completely hear someone out. I think you miss an opportunity, whether it's a personal relationship, whether it's a client. I think that there is just something that you're fully not understanding. And it's also, to me, that's disrespecting the person that you're engaging with as well. When you don't listen to them wholeheartedly and hear everything that they have to say, I think there's a sense of disrespect there. And so I think that we're so caught up in our own image and how somebody else is going to see us and react to us that we automatically jump to, what am I going to say? This is what this person is talking about. How am I going to respond? And so when I talk about the dual art of conversation, it's really about listening and then conversing as appropriate.
We are not aware of the way we behave. And we are defensive all the time, thinking about ourselves and that's why I love the practice of unconditional self-love, because it opens that awareness, the possibility of being there for others more, because now you're there for yourself. So it's easier to be there for others. And speaking of unconditional self-love, do you believe in such a practice?
I do. I do. Our cups have to be full in order for us to pour onto others, right? So, absolutely. I mean, if we're not giving to ourselves, and if we're not compassionate, if we're not forgiving, all of those things to ourselves, we can't forgive others. We can't be compassionate to others, because you're going to hold on to a sense of resentment without having that self-love. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's very important to practice that, to be able to give what we what we think we're giving without practicing, but we're actually not. And so when you do practice self-love, you are truly able to give to others.
Another topic in your book that I had access to is you talk about the two keys to good manners, mindfulness and common sense. And of course, I love them, both of them. But talk to me for a moment about these two components, these two keys to good manners.
Yeah. So, again, based on where you are, being mindful of the situation that you're in. Let's take a very easy example. When you're going out to dinner, um, you know, look at the restaurant that you're going out to. How are people dressing there? Is there a dress code? You don't want to show up to a fine dining restaurant without doing the research and show up in your torn jeans.
Yeah, true.
And so, in a very simplistic manner, to convey the concept of having the common sense, to do that. But it's really about the mindfulness of, where you're at. You want to make sure that you're respecting the place, and the people around you. I have seen one too many times at restaurants, and this was, of course, pre-COVID that we're in today, but people are sitting very close to one another at a restaurant, and you don't know if somebody's on a first date, or you don't know what the people next to you, you don't know what's going on, and then people would FaceTime in the middle of right. And they would use their speaker phones. And I'm sure you've seen that as well in public.
Yeah.
People, FaceTiming, using their speaker phones. And that's disrespectful, right? And so that's where the mindfulness comes in, is where am I? Am I going to be, is this going to be rude if I'm calling someone on speakerphone? It's really about paying attention to where you're at and taking the actions that are appropriate to that particular scenario.
Do you recommend that we meditate?
Absolutely. I think that meditation is a very big tool in helping us be present and have more awareness. I think that, there are a million benefits to meditation, but those are, given the things that we've talked about here, it definitely helps in staying present and having more awareness. I think the two words that I like to use is it helps you also be calm and confident. I notice on days, or if I go multiple days without meditating, that I lose my sense of calmness and how I conduct myself through the day. And so, yeah, I absolutely am a big believer in meditation.
So we're almost at the end. I have a few more questions for you, Nita. Would you like to add anything or read a passage in your book?
I would say that action plus awareness really is the definition of modern etiquette. And when you have that, you're able to gain respect for yourself. When you respect yourself, others respect you. And that's how you're able to benefit. That's how people want to be in relationships with you. That's why people want to work with you. That's why people want to hire you. And so regardless of the area of your life, when you practice awareness, when you take the right actions accordingly, it's the respect and the confidence that you gain along with that will really elevate you and your personal and professional brand.
If you knew you would die soon, meaning losing the body, would you make any change in your life or do anything in a different way?
I would focus more on daily joy and making the most of every moment.
Yeah. My last question is, what are 3 things about life you know for sure as of now?
I would say 3 things about life that I know for sure. I think that our beliefs dictate our life tomorrow. And so staying positive is very important to having a beautiful, abundant life. And, being good to others, because I strongly believe in the concept of karma. And so when you're good to others, goodness comes back to you. And so regardless of, where you are in life, what you're doing, always practice that.
Thank you so much, Nita, for your wisdom, your genuine presence, your mission, your message. Thank you.
Thank you.
My last question is a technical one. Where can we find more information about you, your book, products, services, and future projects?
Sure. You can find all of my services on my website at nita-patel.com. That's nita-patel.com. And my book is available anywhere you can buy books online, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google, Goodreads, pretty much anywhere books are sold online.
Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Nita Patel and her work, please visit nita-patel.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.